Final ending of the request, part 1 down below. Now let's investigate our options. Now, she only mentioned this in her letter that she sent me back a few hours ago. If you decide against selling the house, you are free to keep it. That is not at all confusing. There is undoubtedly a person in the world for everyone. I hope everything goes well for you. I immediately answered, but you have to agree and sign the papers if I choose to sell. Do you think that's okay? Regarding nothing being unclear, all I was mentioning was your statement that you would sell the house one day and then keep it the next. Given that both of our names are on the mortgage, I reasoned that any option you choose, if you have a preference, is acceptable. All I was attempting to do was be thoughtful. Finally, she said, yeah, typing on a computer helps. She is saying that sending and typing emails on her phone is a hassle, given that she hasn't yet acquired a laptop or a PC. Nevertheless, it appears that she is purposefully avoiding responding to the query of whether or not she will sign the documents listing our home for sale. I don't know what to do with her anymore. She's just not getting the message across to me at all. She behaves as though the past month, her entire existence, simply doesn't exist. She's merely attempting to clean her hands of everything. However, it's not that easy when a couple who is still legally married has a mortgage on their home in both of their names. Only after she first left the state without notifying me to go be with another man and didn't get in touch with me at all for 4 days were the joint accounts transferred into my name. In early June, I did consult with a lawyer, and she advised me to keep on to the money. She told me and others that she was in love with him and didn't want to stay here ever since she left the state. In fact, the female attorney thanked me for never hitting her. Additionally, there is no history of domestic abuse between us. Most guys, she claimed, would have snapped and been aggressive, breaking or burning her belongings in the process, which, again, I did not accomplish. I'm beneath that. Our financial issues won't be resolved or my mood lifted by burning her garments. Since Monique hasn't come back to fulfill our mutual financial obligation, I'm applying that money to her part of the bill and recording the amounts. New York is the hardest state in terms of divorce. A year of legal separation must elapse before you can file for divorce. The attorney predicted my victory on the grounds of inhumane and brutal treatment. However, the separation would cost $800 and the divorce would cost $3,000 to $4,000. That's not money I have to spend. I'm awaiting a call from the attorney to schedule a meeting. In Nevada, Monique claims to be filing for divorce. She is able to apply for divorce from any state, according to my research. It just takes 6 weeks to file for divorce in Nevada. But I know that's what a lawyer is for, even though I'm bewildered right now. I'm just eager to know the answer right now, though, is that Monique asserts these things. She wrote these things to me in an email. All you have to do is let me know if you prefer the simple or difficult route. It's quick, simple, and affordable if you and I file together. In the event that you contest it, you will need to travel here, and Nevada law will always divide everything in half. I win if you don't show up. You see, I always come out on top. Despite the fact that she can file in Nevada, I can't locate anything online that indicates that a marriage or divorce in New York would be governed by Nevada's divorce laws. Throughout our 10 years of marriage, all of our marital property has always been located in New York. Therefore, I find it absurd that Nevadan laws have the authority to control our divorce. In addition, I would need to take a plane to Nevada for whatever reason. I read online that Nevada is a communal property state, but New York isn't. According to Nevada divorce law, everything would be split 50-50 if we couldn't agree on who should get what. However, since Nevada has different divorce laws from New York, how can Nevada rules apply to everything? I'm not feeling well at all emotionally. 2 days ago, I had an hour-long meeting with a lawyer here. Monique is currently pursuing a divorce in Nevada, and should I be able to validate it, I will be required by law to go from New York to Nevada in order to appear in court with her. How much I would hate to have to do that is beyond words. Seeing her once more is not as good as never seeing her again. And that was in a courtroom. I guess I was somewhat in denial during those weeks here, believing she would come to our senses and, if not, return to work on our marriage. If not, at least return to work to prevent our house from going into foreclosure and a 10-year credit damage. However, since she moved out, she has become so unreasonable that she has even texted me to say she doesn't care if the house is foreclosed upon. I was told by this lawyer that the thousands are not worth it. We have very few assets, other than the house, in terms of money and property, therefore it would be expensive for me to file for divorce in New York. About half of the money that was in the bank before I transferred it into my name is what Monique wants, $5,000. A lawyer informed me that since her name was also on the mortgage, any judge would probably refuse to give her the money. She is therefore financially liable for making the monthly half of the mortgage payment. She hasn't, though. Rather, I have been making the payment and monitoring her portion of the bill. And thus far, she has spent up to $2,000 on items that are both mine and hers. Since the house is in both of our names, I can't put it up for sale without Monique's signature, but she is also taking her time signing the paperwork. I need a roommate to share the mortgage with me, and the only way I can afford this $1,300 mortgage is if I get a full-time job making at least $15 per hour, which is extremely difficult to find in this location. I tried asking everyone I even somewhat knew locally, but nobody is in need of a place right now. It appears that I will have to interview random people and publish on Craigslist or something similar. Even so, if I have a roommate, the house may be listed for sale and then pulled off the market. However, if I don't give Monique the money and everything else she demands, she's also threatening to have an estate sale. I discovered out that she can do it too. Given those conditions, how many strangers would want to move into a house? I've reached my breaking point and am at a loss on what action to do. All I see for the near future is foreclosure, the sale of the house, 10 years of damaged credit, and a lot of landlords who need credit checks merely to rent an apartment. So I might have a lot of difficulties even finding an inexpensive place to live. Remarks, it appears that you done this to another man. Her initial spouse. What anticipated did you have? That's when she proved she was too self-centered to be a married woman. I won't criticize her in every way because everyone has strengths and weaknesses. But obviously, she had no qualms about divorcing her first marriage in the exact same manner that she has now done with you. Kindly receive the support you require to get through this and build the self-worth that will keep you from repeating the same mistake with another woman. First and foremost, as soon as you learn that someone is married, end any relationship that appears to be starting or has actually begun. Though it is a simple level of security, it is still only one. I hope you find true happiness and that your pain heals. OP says, well, there were a lot of differences between me and her first husband. She wed him when she was 18, so he could receive perks from the military. She considered him to be a friend solely. She told him again and over for literally years that she didn't love him and that she wanted a partner, among other things. That was also confirmed to me by her family and best friend. However, he made the decision to spend years with a woman who had similar feelings for him. Furthermore, weeks before she traveled to New York to be with me, their divorce was submitted, signed, and completed. Before Monique got divorced, we had not even moved to the same place. But in our relationship, she left me before we were even officially separated, much less divorced. However, I didn't see any of this coming until the very end. She was lying to me, telling me she loved me and wanted to be with me as late as 3 weeks before she went. In contrast to her previous husband, her closest friend and family likewise attested to the fact that, for 8 or 9 years, all they heard from her was that she was in love with me and that we were meant to be together. So forget about months or years, even if she had been telling me for only a few weeks. Said she wanted a boyfriend and simply loved me as a friend. Then I would have been the one to suggest that we separate, cooperate to sell our property before anything else, etc. Unlike her former husband, who at least knew where he stood, Monique didn't treat me with the same respect. However, throughout the last year or two, she has been lying to me about her love for me. I spent tonight going over old email archives. And barely 10 months before she left, in July 2018, I came across this email that Monique sent to her mother. He's cute, and I like him, so I remain. Well, it's not life with Robert, exactly, but life is life. I'm not sure what you mean when you say that I accompany him to his friends' houses. Frank actually doesn't have any buddies. I work, and I frequently encounter folks there. I would feel restless and want to go, so Robert didn't even like it when I worked. No one is perfect, including Frank, but I adore him. In fact, I believe he's the most perfect match for me there is. But the world isn't made up of everyone I know. I wish he had felt differently about some things, like when he first met you too, Monique. So, did she really lie to her mother? I don't know, but since you brought up the topic, I thought it was fascinating that I came upon this. I'm currently awaiting Monique's divorce documents. It is said that she submitted them a few days ago. We hadn't spoken to each other in almost 2 weeks. The email exchange was even more ugly. I went further online on July 9th to see what information I could learn about this guy she's seeing. Since he actually emailed me the day before and stated, I 1. Signed the papers. We had no communication prior, and that's just a low-life thing to say to me. I was irritated with him. I discovered a 2012 court filing online, in which a lady he was seeing at the time filed for a 1-year restraining order against him due to allegations of domestic abuse. After all of Monique's BS about needing to get away from me for her protection after we spent 10 years together and I had never physically harmed her, that really got under my skin. After I forwarded the page about domestic violence to her, she emailed me back 2 days later, spitting profanity and disputing that he strikes women. She also branded me a slime for attempting to rob her of what she cherishes. She added that if you don't come, your Jersey friend would love to come present it in person. Alton would like you to travel to Reno to oppose the divorce because he has a surprise for you. That email contained a lot of other nasty stuff, but stillness followed, which was mostly a good thing. The only thing that bothered me was that I've been making futile attempts to locate homes for 2 of our 4 cats. I sent her an email to see if she would come back and pick up 2 of them, but she didn't respond. I offered to have a buddy drop them off at the airport so that she wouldn't even need to see me. Still no response, though. I can see why we shouldn't talk about ourselves, but because there are still things we need to talk about, the lines of communication should remain open. I noticed that she had accessed my MySpace account after many days without receiving a response. She was aware of the passcode. Ever since she'd left, I hadn't changed it. She hacked into my account and erased all the photos of her and me together, despite the fact that we are no longer on each other's friend list and have private profiles that prevent us from even viewing one another's sites. I thought that sending her the email below would get her attention, so I did that after that. Indeed, it did. What is the reason behind your attempt to obliterate our past and your feelings towards us at that particular time? You cannot undo the sentiments you truly felt in 2016 by taking down the images and remarks you posted of us in 2019. You ought to regret accessing my accounts and doing that. In addition, I want to express my regret for the way you abandoned me and the lies you told me 3 weeks before to your departure about how much you loved and wanted me, all the while quietly establishing your new, adulterous connection with Alton behind my back. You'll be able to merely apologize for all of it with ease. If you don't call me to apologize or respond to this, I'll really think about putting some 1999 footage of us online. I believe you are familiar with the video in question. We didn't make that kind of video of ourselves again. I will not, however, post a video of us having a great time online. But it's enough for me that she worries about it and knows that I could if I wanted to. She's punishing herself right now since she came up with the idea to film us in bed 10 years ago. She replied to me right away, didn't apologize, and just stated that you couldn't show any of my photos without my permission. That applies to all videos as well. I do not recommend that you post images or videos of me online without getting my consent. I'm going to sue you. I don't care if I file a lawsuit or not because I won't be doing it anyhow. The same day, she briefly joined me on Yahoo Messenger, but I didn't get anywhere with that either. Why haven't I received the MC divorce paperwork if you didn't require them? W. Since they rejected my request for a waiver to avoid paying $300. You haven't actually submitted them yet, therefore I don't have them. W. I completed it yesterday. Alright, so stating that you haven't lied about anything isn't the same as claiming that you didn't lie about the MC. While you were telling me you loved and wanted to be with me, you were also speaking with Alton in late April. 3 weeks later, however, you were with him, and 4 days later, you called to tell me you were in love. There is an inaccurate statement there, and I'm confident that the part about you still loving me in late April is the sad one. Look, I understand that we can't be fixed right now. I only ask for a small amount of regret and an apology for our ending, so that our disagreements won't worsen and we can both move on more easily. Of course, W, the way it ended was sad. You have to see your part as well, even though I really didn't want it to go that way. I had to go somewhere safe since you were so scary. Kindly stop making things seem awful and spooky. Even though you have the power to improve things, you still choosing to torment me. That she still won't apologize for anything after being gone for 2 months absolutely astounds me. It's just utterly ludicrous that she still thinks of me as frightening and claims she felt secure traveling 3,000 miles to a stranger who could have killed her while she was sleeping or done anything else. It's clear that she is still denying how awful the way she left me was and that she is unable to accept her remorse. However, given how determined she is to destroy us, so much so that she even felt compelled to remove our photos from my own MySpace account, I believe it's beginning to slowly catch up with her. She first claimed, weeks ago, that she would be filing for divorce, claiming she would like $5,000. I told her there was no way she could do that because she wasn't making her half of the mortgage payment, and the lawyer I spoke with assured me that it was nearly a given that a judge would not give her half of the bank account for that reason. The one positive thing I did hear from her on Yahoo Messenger was that, Monique, you will still need to pay me money once the divorce is finalized. As you can see from the paperwork when you receive them, I simply requested $2,000. Presumably, when she spoke with legal assistants or whoever, they gave her the same explanation regarding the funds and her portion of the mortgage, among other things. I believe that she is merely requesting $2,000 because she is aware of how much I would prefer not to have to travel to Nevada for a contentious divorce and appear in court beside her. The aircraft tickets alone would set me back over $1,000. Lodging. I believe she is aware that I would prefer to simply consent to the divorce and have it go uncontested in order to save myself the extra $1,000 or so. Lastly, even though I had already informed her that if she came here by plane to retrieve the kiddos, that our seeing one another wasn't necessary, not to mention that I didn't want to have to travel to a Nevada courthouse to see her. She stated this on Yahoo Messenger as well. It's obvious that you're itching to speak with me, Nanique. I can't stand to play games with you any longer since you're always trying to harm me and find ways to make me come back. There's no logic there for me. Is she really hoping that I will want her since she is so emotionally unstable? Despite the fact that she no longer desires me, I've always had a soft place for situations in which I believe I've been wronged unfairly. Throughout this whole ordeal, she has done me so many terrible things. However, the one item that comes to me the most is the one that I mentioned earlier. It still has a bad impact on me every day and enraged me so much. And if she would just apologize to me and acknowledge that what she did was wrong, I would feel better. I have no control over her choosing to be with a man who has a history of detesting women. She made the decision to accompany him and remain with him. Even though I don't want him to hit her, she allowed herself to be in that circumstance if it does. Whatever, as for him endangering me, so be it. I've thought about meeting him face to face and how much I'd love to get into it with him on multiple occasions because I have enough cliched masculine ego in me. However, since they are 3,000 miles away, that is not going to happen. I sincerely doubt that I will ever see Monique again in my lifetime. I have to leave this house, this state, and everything in it. Nobody that I even somewhat know is searching for a place to live or a roommate right now that I can find here. If I don't go, I feel like I'm going to have a major emotional collapse soon. Even though I no longer want her or our marriage, I can't stop seeing her ghost all throughout this house. When I buy for food, etc., I look at the woman who, 9 times out of 10, treated me so well. But she's now permanently lost. My acquaintance lives in the South, where the exorbitant cost of living is a small portion of what it is in New York State. We were browsing Craigslist when we noticed that renters might find houses and flats there that are literally half as expensive as those in New York State. He looked at a property 20 minutes away from him that I could rent for just $450 a month today. Furthermore, the minimum wage is the same there as it is here. He mentioned how ancient and dilapidated the house was. He will shortly email me some images. However, the neighborhood is nice. Regardless, I'm probably going to have to accept it. Our mortgage remains the same, legally speaking. If I stay, I will run out of money that I have saved in 3 months. I'm supposed to move out of New York by the end of August, so the goal is to secure my apartment down there this week. The bank will have a discussion regarding a short sale with the real estate agent, which damages credit but does not permanently destroy it, unlike a foreclosure, which lasts for 10 years. I have to get out of here, whether it's through foreclosure or a short sale. I'm going to be on the verge of insanity just to make it through 1 more month here. I'm scared, but not as scared as I am of packing up and moving almost 1,000 miles away on a truck with everything in it. The past week has seen the worst thoughts of death I've had since shortly after her departure. I want to survive for the most part, but I literally need to leave here in order to survive financially and emotionally. I'm trying, then. I mean, it's been a couple days since I got to South Carolina. Positively, I like being able to look around an apartment without seeing her ghost all around me. The search for a job has begun. I had actually, briefly, altered my mind since my last post almost a month ago and was prepared to accept the divorce and allow her Visa credit card to be transferred into my name, simply to put an end to this. She misled me once more, though, when she claimed in an email that she had spoken with Visa that I would be receiving documentation to sign before she did. After that, I would close the account and take ownership of it. When I finally got it, though, I read it and saw that before she could remove her name from the card, I had to be added to her account as a joint card holder. I replied to her email by saying, "No way, not in this lifetime." Of course, the last thing that 2 individuals do jointly during a divorce is make any kind of mutual financial arrangement. There is a $14,000 restriction on her Visa card. She stopped using it once she reached 50, so 90 is still available. She knew, but she chose not to tell me, so it was evident to me that I would have to sign the card beside her, that she would immediately spend the entire amount on the card, 90, then remove her name from it, leaving me legally obligated to use the card for 14 instead of 50. A few weeks ago, she replied to my email, asking if I could test the divorce. "I'm never going to talk to you again. Please don't email me. I'm not going to respond. I've blocked you." That concluded things. I am okay with no communication since. I filed my contested divorce papers, which state that the following debts belong to the wife, to the court, and to her. I listed my wife's name on each individual credit card account. My divorce papers were delivered to her and the court 2 weeks ago, but I haven't heard anything since. I have no idea if she received the documents because I did notice that the address I used to send them by certified mail with a return receipt was signed for by someone else. I was unaware of the identity of the female signer. However, the woman at the Nevada court told me over the phone that if she doesn't give me her accurate address, it's not my duty to find her. Thus, the divorce is still pending. In addition, our New York home is up for sale, but the bank will only let us know that it needs 3 months' notice before it will probably begin the foreclosure process. Thus, the deadline for it to sell is November 1st. If not, our credit will be damaged for 10 years. Additionally, on a similar topic, we will be canceling our current credit cards. I asked her to move back into the house with her shady boyfriend as soon as I knew I would definitely be leaving the state so they could continue to work there and pay the mortgage until the house sold to prevent foreclosure, as 2 individuals who can afford a mortgage can do so. She refused, unlike when she left me alone, and since they are impoverished and live in a trailer in Nevada, I was unable to understand her response. Then I learned that since he was sued for a significant amount of back child support, and he still owes so much that he would be jailed if he left Nevada, thus making him a prisoner of the state. Oh, what a loser she hooked up with. What delights of joys. I'm losing everything 2 months later. Next week is the foreclosure on our house. Additionally, there was the case management conference where the judge divided up our assets after she left our marriage. Dwelling, 4 felines, occurs the following week as well. I've at last secured a full-time position, but at only 8 hours a day, I'm overqualified. Let alone paying her anything in the divorce settlement. I can't make ends meet on that. I'm bothered by the fact that I still have to work 60 hours a week at a part-time job in order to make ends meet and pay my rent, bills, vehicle payment, and groceries. I lived alone without relatives for 6 months, taking things day by day. I mean, what's the point? There isn't any. My ex-husband is becoming more and more nasty, and my divorce is still not official. She accomplished this, and because it fits her, she believes she has the right to insist, make decisions, and behave like a crazy bee. My son's refusal to be close to her is the one thing that makes me happy. Thanksgiving is today, and he declined to come. It makes me glad that my girls also want to spend time with me. She refuses to accept accountability for her deeds. It's all the fault of someone else. Our divorce became final on December 28th, 1 month later. In the first and second weeks of December, there were 2 case management conferences. Regretfully, I was able to use speakerphone to attend in court at the last minute with authorization. So, while Monique and the judge were in the courtroom, I was talking on the phone. That was the first time I had spoken to her or heard her voice since the summer of previous year. Despite my extreme nervousness, I managed to remain composed. We argued back and forth for a while over who should receive what, but I stood my ground and wouldn't take over her credit card, which was $5,000 in debt. When I fought the divorce in August, I made her an offer like that, but she turned it down. I was therefore taking a chance in case the case management conference ended without an agreement. A formal divorce trial would then have been scheduled. Even though Nevada is a no-fault, 50-over-50 split state, I was happy to hear the court inquire about what transpired when Monique departed. After that, I spoke briefly before getting to the major idea. This means that she shares joint ownership of a home with a $150,000 mortgage, in which she abruptly left, got a one-way plane ticket right away, and never returned, despite my encouragement for her to complete her share of the household chores. She also left a 10-year marriage in which there had never been any domestic abuse. I mentioned earlier that I knew she detested having to remain silent in front of the court. Because she could have to go through all of that again in court during a divorce trial, I think she caved and took my $4,000 offer. Overall, then, in terms of money, I couldn't have hoped for a much better divorce result. In other positive news, the PMI firm, who owns the mortgage insurance on the house, called me last week to express their want to collaborate with me and us, even if the bank did foreclose on the house at the end of November, concerning preserving it. They therefore asked me for specific data to support their request that I and my family experience financial hardship. Currently undergoing review, there is a strong likelihood that it will be approved. If they do, the bank informed me over the phone that they will follow PMI's ruling and will even go back and undo the foreclosure. Additionally, PMI informed me that the 6 months of missed payments would be applied to the loan's rear end, where they would be repaid over a long period of time. In addition, allow me a few months to gather my thoughts before returning to my home. Positive update, I started a new job on February 1st, 2 months later. I've only had 1 day off since the first week of training and have spent the entire day answering incoming calls. I completed 60 hours in 6 days last week and 62 hours in 6 days this week, therefore I earned good time and half. I had been trying to be recruited there for months, and at the end of January, I was finally given an interview. There are roughly 1,000 employees there. Regarding the insane ex-partner, she wed a trailer trash guy just a week ago. She moved from her first spouse to me a few weeks later, then from me to him a little over a day later. Less than 2 months after our divorce, she now gets married to him. She needs psychological testing. She is crazy. No going out on dates or being a self-sufficient single. She is extremely dependent on males. Furthermore, considering her past from her previous 2 marriages, only a fool would wed her. So, alright, they are free to have each other. 6 months later, I'm still not used to being by myself. I suppose it was too long after spending 10 years a day with my ex for me to ever feel normal again on my own. It doesn't help at all that I had to move out of our house a year ago owing to financial difficulties. And instead of staying in New York State, where I had always lived, I've been living in a terrible apartment in South Carolina ever since. In the past few months, I have gained 1 new friend. She is my age, married for 18 years, separated for the last 5, and is now unmarried. We essentially just communicate via the phone. It's enjoyable and it's nice. However, she doesn't stop by and doesn't extend an invitation for me to visit her home. She seems to be even more resentful than I am. All I do is work 40 hours a week at a low-paying, high-stress job, return home to an empty apartment, and spend my 2 days off alone. I tried using dating sites, but it didn't work. I make an effort to socialize with new people in my community, but women seem closed off and married at my age. I'm not sure how long I can continue living alone like this. Actually, I don't. In addition, I barely make ends meet and no longer have the money to give my ex her $100 a month. From January until June, I gave her money. After that, I stopped. She wrote me an irate email a few weeks ago, complaining that she hadn't received her money for July and August. After months of silence, she told that because my IP was blacklisted, I shouldn't respond. It had been months since I had heard from her. and only to transfer the funds. She can now file a complaint with the court, and since the divorce decree called for the 100 monthly payments, I run the possibility of having an arrest warrant issued by the court. However, I might be able to avoid it because the court is meant to get in touch with me and ask to see my income and monthly costs. If they concur that I don't earn enough money to support her, they will temporarily halt the payments until such time as I start earning more money. Last week, I received another call from the mortgage company asking whether I wanted to return to my repossessed home. That surprised me because I had gone through this with them 8 months prior. Ultimately, the review board rejected it on the grounds that I don't have a job there and am 800 miles away. They must be in a hurry because the house isn't selling, even at a foreclosure auction where it went for significantly less than what it's worth. Additionally, they haven't received payment for the entire year that the residence has been unoccupied. It would be difficult for me to find work in this economy, let alone pay a monthly mortgage. To share the mortgage 3 ways, add 2 roommates. I miss my friends, my house, and my home. I wish to leave this place where I am alone. I don't think I'll ever be able to get over my current state of depression and rage. When I was a hit-free husband, never cheated, always worked, but because of her mental collapse, I was abruptly left behind. Midlife crisis and fled to live in poverty in a trailer in Nevada with her first boyfriend, whom she had known since she was 12. Final update, I've been back in New York State since November, working a temp job that only required around 20 hours a week until it ended last week. Tomorrow, I'll be attending a job fair in hopes of finding full-time work that would only require 10 hours a day. Let's see how that turns out. I have to leave by June to move in with a pal. He changed his life, so there's no place for me anymore. There are 2 locations I might be able to go, but nothing solid. I'm in big trouble if I don't find another work this week or next because I only have around $500 to my name. Last month, I came upon a stunning 30-something woman online. She decided to have our initial meeting at her apartment, and on our first date, she also started us bonding. She turned all cold feet on me 2 days later and then ignored me. It was absolutely time for my damaged ego to feel wanted again by a pretty woman. On the other hand, I'm not particularly into getting picked up for a fun time on a dating site. It's unfortunate that nothing more came of it because we got along so well and had similar interests. But she seems to be having problems. I made a phrase about having no relatives because it is untrue. It wasn't until last week that I spoke with any family members. With the exception of one person, I had no idea where the others were. It turns out that I got a call from a cousin who lives nearby. Neither he nor I knew about the other. I had messaged the wife of another relative on Facebook. We live approximately 20 minutes apart, so last week I gave him my number and he called. My second cousin, the cousin's wife, who had my number, is a well-known man who has been married for 30 years. At this point, I'd prefer not to identify who. I wrote to a nearby relative who is brothers with my cousin's wife. When we got together last week, it kind of felt like a family interview. He asked me questions concerning my childhood. In addition, he claimed to be aware of the information that was available online about our family. He asked me for a name and the identity of the person, and when I gave the right response, he said that the information wasn't public and that he needed to confirm that I was who I claimed to be. I must admit, that seemed really strange to me. I mean, I can't even imagine someone claiming to be me, most of the time, even I don't want to be me. How depressing would that be? After we had been hanging out and chatting for about an hour, he invited me to my cousin and wife's house. His sibling. Nice to be with him in a few weeks. I figure he wouldn't have done it if he didn't like me or whatever. I've seen a lot of famous bands over the years, so I don't get starsick. But since I would be hanging out at my cousin's house, who I don't know personally and who is starring in a TV show, I could feel a little uncomfortable. However, I might not. His wife sounds and seems like a sweetheart. I've seen YouTube videos with her discussing her business. The cousin I met also mentioned that they are private and family-oriented, which makes sense given that they are eager to welcome me into their home. They all already know that I'm having financial difficulties, so I'm hoping for the best, since you never know what you might find out. However, who knows? Perhaps they could put in some calls and get me a good job. In this terrible economy, I'm not asking for a financial handout from them or anyone else. I don't think it's improper of me to want that my cousin will utilize his connections to help me get employment so that I can support myself. My comment, how do you feel about the conclusion of the opus? After all of this, he is beginning to notice the shortcomings in other people he is dating. Perhaps things